Today we're going to be reading about the geography of the Fertile Crescent through a short little read along, so feel free to follow along as I read the section to you. If you were there, you are a farmer in Southwest Asia about 6,000 years ago. You live near a slow-moving river with many shallow lakes and marshes. The river makes the land in the valley rich and fertile, so you can grow wheat and dates. But in the spring, raging floods spill over the riverbanks, destroying your fields. In the hot summers, you are often short of water. You ask yourself, how can you control the waters of the river? Rivers support the growth of civilization. Early people settled where crops would grow. Crops usually grew well near rivers, where water was available and regular floods made the soil rich. One region in Southwest Asia was especially well suited for farming. It lay between two rivers. The land between two rivers. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers are the most important physical features of the region, sometimes known as Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia means between the rivers in Greek. As you can see on the map, the region called Mesopotamia lies between Asia Minor and the Persian Gulf. The region is part of a larger area called the Fertile Crescent, a large arc of rich or fertile farmland. The Fertile Crescent extends from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. In ancient times, Mesopotamia was actually made of two parts. Northern Mesopotamia was a plateau bordered on the north and the east by mountains. Southern Mesopotamia was a flat plain. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers flowed down from the hills into this low-lying plain. The rise of civilization. Hunter-gatherer groups first settled in Mesopotamia more than 12,000 years ago. Over time, these people learned how to plant crops to grow their own food. Every year, floods on the Tigris and Euphrates rivers brought silt, a mixture of rich soil and tiny rocks, to the land. The fertile silt made the land ideal for farming. The first farm settlements formed in Mesopotamia as early as 7000 BC, or BCE, before the Common Era. Farmers grew wheat, barley, and other types of grain. Livestock, birds, and fish were also good sources of food. Plentiful food led to population growth, and villages formed. Eventually, these early villages developed into the world's first civilization. A civilization is an organized society within a specific area. Civilization often included large cities in which different social classes of people live. Writing, formal education, art, and architecture are features of civilizations. In civilizations, governments are made up of leaders or family groups. The groups make decisions that help the civilization develop. These characteristics improve people's quality of life. In an established civilization, a government makes economic decisions to help society develop. For example, as populations grow, decisions have to be made about how to effectively produce and distribute food. Farming and cities. Although Mesopotamia had fertile soil, farming wasn't easy there. The region received little rain. This means that water levels in the Tigris and Euphrates rivers depended on how much rain fell in eastern Asia Minor, where the two rivers began. When a great amount of rain fell there, water levels got very high. Flooding destroyed crops, killed livestock, and washed away homes. And during a drought, a time of little or no rain, water levels became too low. Crops dried up, and there was little water for livestock. Famine could therefore result from either too much or too little rain. Farmers knew they needed a way to control the river's flow. Controlling water. To solve their problems, Mesopotamians used irrigation, a way of supplying water to an area of land. To irrigate their land, they dug out large storage basins to hold water supplies. Then they dug canals, human-made waterways, that connected these basins to a network of ditches. These ditches brought water to the fields. To protect their fields from flooding, farmers constructed dams and built up the bank of the Tigris and Euphrates. This helped to control the flow of water and held back floodwaters when rivers levels were high. The Mesopotamians used all the resources the rivers provided. In addition to using water for crops, they used clay from the riverbanks to create bricks for buildings. The construction of buildings and irrigation systems is an example of why early societies in Mesopotamia are considered civilizations. This construction required Mesopotamian society to be organized. Mesopotamians made good decisions to help sustain growing populations. Irrigation systems were very important to the growth of cities. Mesopotamian kings had an obligation to construct and maintain these systems. Irrigation increased the amount of food farmers grew. In fact, farmers could produce a food surplus, or more than they needed. Farmers also used irrigation to water grazing areas for cattle and sheep. As a result, Mesopotamians ate a variety of foods. Fish, meat, wheat, barley, and dates were plentiful. A more productive society. Because irrigation made farmers more productive, fewer people needed to farm. Some people became free to do other jobs. As a result, new occupations developed. For the first time, people were able to focus on other technological improvements. Toolmakers began to make tools out of metal. This development brought an end to the Neolithic era and the beginning of the Copper Age. Copper could be used to make arrowheads or knives. It took special knowledge and skills to work with metal. Some people were able to devote all of their time to finding raw material metal and shaping it into tools. Others focused on tasks such as weaving cloth or making pottery. An arrangement in which workers specialize in a particular task or job is called a division of labor. Societies with a division of labor can become more complex than ones that lack specialization. Having people available to work on different jobs meant that society could accomplish more. Large projects such as constructing buildings and digging irrigation systems required specialized workers, managers, and organization. To complete these projects, the Mesopotamians needed structure and rules. Structure and rules could be provided by laws and government. The appearance of cities. Over time, Mesopotamian settlements grew in size and complexity. They gradually developed into cities between 4000 and 3000 BC or BCE. Despite the growth of cities, society in Mesopotamia was still based on agriculture. Most people still worked in farming jobs. However, cities were becoming an important place. People traded goods there, and cities provided places to keep surplus foods grown on farmland. Cities were the political, religious, cultural, and economic centers of civilization. So, in conclusion, Mesopotamia's rich, fertile land supported productive farming, which led to the development of cities. In the next lesson, you will learn about some of the first city builders.